Okay, I will give a short intro into the middle path and show how the Cittanupassana fits in, and then we'll get into the technique. So what are we trying to do here? The Buddha explained to us that our normal human state is actually an animal state, even though we have a higher brain, since we are not wired to it, the human brain, the prefrontal cortex, our default thinking, speaking, acting, the behavior, which is mostly happening unconsciously, automatically, is animal inclined than what we actually have the potential for to be role model human beings. So the mind, there are two main activities in the mind, the way the Buddha explained. There is the chitta and there is the mano. So chitta is where we get all the emotions. So our desires for pleasure, our hatred or dislike of pain, even the thought, feeling that there is me, there is I. So the desire for pleasure is what we call lobha. Dislike of pain, hatred of pain, lack of pleasure is what we call dvesha. And or the thought of me, myself, that is the moha, so the feeling of selfishness. So all of these things come from the chitta, that is the animal part of the brain. I earlier spoke about a triune brain, the reptilian, mammalian, and the prefrontal cortex. So this reptilian mammalian combination is what gives rise to this chitta. So a few things to remember about the chitta is it is all about emotions. It's all about automatic reactions. It's all about unconscious, the unconscious nature of our mind on how we respond and react to stimulus. So what are the stimulus? Everything in life is a stimulus for us. When we open our eyes, we see. When we, with our ears, we hear. With our nose, we smell. With our tongue, the mouth, we know the different tastes of the food and the drinks. And with our body, we know the pleasant and the unpleasant feeling, sensations of touch. And of course, those are the 5 main doors. And the mind is also a sense door, where we have our past is in the form of memories, and our future is in the form of imagination. And we are hardly in the present moment, which is here and now. So we are always either, swimming in the past or muddling through the future through imagination, hardly in the present moment. So what is mano? Mano is the thinking part. Now, chitta cannot think. Chitta can only feel. So feeling angry, feeling frightened, feeling sad, feeling sorrow, desiring things, that is all chitta. Mano is where the rational thinking gets done. So an enlightened being is a being who has done a shift in the brain, where the normal wiring of the brain is on chitta, that has got rewired into mano. So you are always on rational thinking mode. There are no emotions. So you can imagine how peaceful that is, because irrespective of what life throws at you, irrespective of what you see, what you hear, what you smell, taste, touch, feel, irrespective of the memories that are there already, irrespective of how you imagine what might happen, there's no emotion in that. This is the emotional part is what makes us live in this animal nature, because all animals, since they don't have the rational part, They are always 100% at emotions. Humans, thankfully, can step up above the animal nature and take rational decisions. And that is what is expected in society, for us to behave in a certain way, speak in a certain way. And whenever people are not speaking or behaving in a certain way, that creates problems. And legal action needs to be taken. And sometimes if those people cannot be reformed, they need to be locked up, locked away from the rest of society because they're too destructive. But most of us, we have these destructive urges, emotions. But since we are also able to control ourselves rationally, we get on. And so much so, some might even think we are all model human beings. Only we know what is really going on in our minds, right? So when I was studying this chitta and the difference of chitta and mano, and we are wired to our animal nature and we need to rise above it to our human nature, I was actually relieved because it explained a lot about myself to me, and especially the conflict that I am usually having in my mind. So the Buddha referred to this conflict. What is the conflict? The conflict is always between the chitta and the mano. So if you take a small example, chitta urges us, makes us want to do things. The mano is what applies brakes. So even a simple thing, let's say, for whatever the reason, sugar or sweet things are bad for you, either because you're putting on weight or because you're diabetic or whatever it is. Or you simply think that, too much of sugar is not good and you want to cut down, cut back. And this is a typical example of where your chitta and mano will be on conflict. Because when you see or hear or smell or taste something sweet, your entire body goes into, oh, I want this mode, hugely desirous. And your thinking part, so the chitta will be, it's all into emotions. I want this, desire. And your mano, the thinking part, will be rationalizing with you. So it might tell you, why do you want this? You already had your share of sweets today. Or why do you want this today? Your entire life you have been having this, and it has never given you sustained peace. You think this is going to? And if you also are observant of how this pleasure and pain works, what we think we are pursuing as a pleasure actually always ends up feeling very hollow, and you leaving you with a yearning for more. I wish there was more, right? So it's not only Oliver Twist who wants more. We all want more of the pleasurable experiences. So this is the conflict. Now, identifying this conflict is the starting point of wanting to resolve the conflict, identifying that there is this conflict, and that is what shatters the peace. Now, something interesting about our mind is what the Buddha said, and many other teachers, like Venerable Ajahn Chah, the way they say it, you can guess that they have also experienced it, that your mind by default is luminous, it's pure. But all these defilements in the form of lobha, dvesha, moha come and make that pure mind impure. And that is as long as your chitta is at play. So once the chitta part is not there anymore, your mind is luminous and pure, and nothing can make it impure. So the fact that your mind's original nature is pure and peaceful and luminous means this, and that is the state of nirvana. It is already in you. It's a matter of overcoming and getting rid of the defilements that come and get in the way of that peace being a permanent peace. that luminous nature being a permanent state. So that is the good news. We are trying to get to something that is already there. It's just that there are other impediments covering it. So what do you need to do? So Sila Samadhi Prajna is what we need to do. So guarding these senses, it starts with the 5 precepts. Now, if you think of the 5 precepts, these are actually helping us to not do bad things, right? But if you really want to progress in this path, the Buddha has recommended that we need to start keeping the higher precepts. So what are the higher precepts? So the Atasil that most of you have observed today is keeping the higher precepts. Now, what the Buddha told the layman is at least one day in the month, take the higher precepts. So what is the difference between the 8 and the 5? So if you take all 3, the Vikala Bhojana, Nattagita Vadita, Uchasana, Mahasana, it's all about pleasing the senses. So whenever there is a holiday, either Poya day or a weekend, you'll notice that you are always looking for something to munch, right? That is by definition a day that you are not working, right? Relaxing. Relaxing is all about munching. So Vikala Bhojana is trying to guard that sense door. Nacha Gita Vadita Visuka Dasana. If you look at Nacha Gita Vadita, is all about the dancing, the music, the drama, the movies, the teledramas, the Netflix and everything. If you think of Visuka Dasana, that is definitely Facebook, YouTube, all those short videos that reach you, the TikToks, those messages that come to you through WhatsApp. And even if you're at work, you'll be like, let me just look at this. That is certainly Visuka Dasana. Of course, Mala Gandhavilepan, and it goes on. Uchasayana, Mahasayana. And how do we spend our holiday? We usually like to get comfortable, right? You flop on your bed or your couch or your sofa and you wriggle and get even more comfortable, right? It's all about comfort. So comfort for the body, comfort for the eyes and the ears, and seeking pleasure for the tongue, the body, the eyes and the ears. So the moment you start guarding the higher precepts, these things you start disciplining. And in order to discipline, you have to practice vipassana as well, because the moment you are in contact with these pleasures, you need to know that now desire has arisen or something unpleasant has arisen, and not get carried away by the automatic reaction to these things. So that is where the whole vipassana comes into play. But it all starts with sila and our ability to guard the sense doors. Samadhi is all about calming the mind. So this whole conflict between chitta and mano, samadhi is a state of no conflict. So how do you reach a state of no conflict? So the samatha meditation that Dr. Manori and I shared today, so metta, buddhanusati, asubha, and marananusati, what Dr. Manori called arakshaka, satara arakshaka bhavana, the techniques, is for this, to make the mind calm, stable, calm mind. When the mind is calm and stable and focused on a meditation object, then it's a place where there is no focus on external things, because it's the external things that triggers these pleasures, these desires, the aversions. And that is a mind that is in a calm state. And of course, prajna is about understanding the realities of life. So what is the realities? What are the realities of life? So if you think of the pleasures that we are pursuing, having spent sufficient time in this planet as a human being and having pursued all the pleasures, you all now in this group, you are aware that how transient these things are. The more you seek it, the more you want it, the more it's like a volcano. It keeps only accumulating. the desire just keeps accumulating. The interesting thing that I experienced was I wanted to cut back on sugary thing, and I made the attempt to completely stop. And I was successful for a couple of months at a stretch. What I realized in that was the less I use, the less I need it. So the more I consume, the more I want it. So it's a vicious cycle. It's actually a trap. And the Buddha was right to call it a trap, because seeking sensual pleasures, kama sukha likkhana yoga, it is a trap where the more you are into it, the more you want. So you will notice whether it is you or anyone in your family, the more you are into games, the more you want it. The more you are into Facebook, the more you want it. The more you are into Netflix, the more you want it. So similarly, everything is like that. Wherever you're trying to please or go for sensual pleasures, it's a one way. It's a road that it's very hard to come back from. So having that discipline, but of course, when I'm teaching at the Dhamma school, what I tell the kids is, look, have the discipline in terms of the number of hours you're going to invest in these things, right? So I don't think we can tell kids or adults, don't do these things, because that won't work. But you can at least recommend to people, limit your time on these things. Is it 1 hour a day? Is it 3 hours a day? I mean, if you're spending 10 hours a day, can you make it 5 hours a day? And then come to some logical conclusion of how much is not too bad. So this kind of understanding is what Sammaditthi is all about. The realities of life, understanding the realities of life. What is the reality of life? That no matter what you do, it changes. It is impermanent because it's based on conditions. So if you are seeking a pleasure, that entire pleasure is constructed on conditions. And the moment the conditions are over, the pleasure is over. And the entire life that we are living now, it's all based on conditions. And once the conditions change, the body changes, falls sick many times, grows old, and eventually when the condition ceases to exist, the body ceases to exist. So when everything is based on conditions and the conditions are not in your control, it's very unstable, it's changing all the time. We don't see the change because our eyes, ears, our sense doors, our brain can't tangibly understand the speed of change. But you know from science that the speed is immense. It is a second divided into millions of a time frame when things are changing in our body, and even faster is the change in our mind. So we know this, but it's not about, so it's a theoretical understanding, and Vipassana is all about giving you that experiential wisdom. So Sammaditthi is all about understanding that things change, they are unstable, they are based on conditions, and that those things are not in my control. And all of this together makes it very unpleasant. So Anitya, Dukkha, Anatma comes from that. So that is all about understanding. Once you understand this, the way you think starts to slightly change, right? At some point, you'll be taking a complete U-turn. And that is when you are like firmly on the path and you are getting into Sakuradagami, Anagami, Arihat levels, where you take a complete U-turn. You have been going all this time in one direction, and your conviction of the futility of it is so strong that you take a complete direction of not pursuing those at all. And really, your thinking starts adapting to your view. And that is the second one, the thinking part of it. And with that, what you speak, samma vacha, how you act and behave in society, samma kammanta, and how you live in society, samma ajiva, all of that then starts taking shape, because it's all about doing thinking, saying and doing wholesome things, things that are good for you and good for others, right? So with this, then comes Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, and Samma Samadhi. So the effort, the right effort, which we call Samma Vayama, is all about overcoming the laziness, overcoming the restlessness. To do this, I find a lot of parallels between studying and meditation. When we, as a student, whenever I sat down to study, I feel lazy, right? No matter how energetic I was before, the moment I sit down and take something, history book or whatever, you feel lazy, you feel dull, you feel lethargic, and then various other thoughts come out. Should I do this some other time? Shall I watch something instead? Shall I listen to some music instead? Right? Similarly, with meditation, people say, I don't have time. It's not that you don't have time. You don't see the need for this, and you prioritize other things over this. So that is why we want to start building a daily practice of this, so that you will get into that discipline of at least meditating 5 minutes a day and slowly build it up to a minimum of 20 minutes a day, every day. So, so that is the whole effort part. And then Sammasati simply refers to the Satara Satipatthana. So people call this mindfulness, but it's really about introspection, looking inside. Now, when we are living in this world, when we are living in this life, it's all about looking outside, right? What we see outside, what we hear, what we taste. It's all about things in the outside. Satipatthana is focusing about what is happening inside. So when you open your eyes and you see, whatever you see, there's a change that happens in your body because of something that you are seeing, because of something that you are hearing. A change is happening in your body. So Cittanupassana is about observing the body, what is happening to my body as a result of this stimulus. Vedanupassana is what are the sensations that I'm feeling as a result of this stimulus. Cittanupassana is what is the emotional state, the chitta. Right? Remember, chitta is all about the emotions. What is the emotional state now? Right? And Dhammanupassana is what thoughts are getting generated as a result of all of this. So that is the Satara Satipatthana. It's quite a simple thing, actually. It's about focusing inside. You are living in this world, you're always looking at outside. This is all about what is going on inside your mind. So in doing this, so then Samma Samadhi, so Samma Sati is the Satara Satipatthana, and Samma Samadhi, of course, is a place where you are not in conflict. So imagine you are in the Satara Satipatthana and focusing on everything that's happening to you. You're focusing on the impact to your body, impact to the sensations, impact to your emotions, and impact to your thought process. When you are looking at it from an inside, introspection, you are 100% in your mano, rational mode. You are in a rational mode because you are observing. You're observing. And when you're 100% in a rational mode, there's no conflict, because the conflict comes when chitta and mano are at each other. But when you are in introspection, there's no conflict. So that is what Samma Samadhi is all about. So this is the Noble Eightfold Path. This is what the Buddha said as the middle path, right? Pursuing sensual pleasures, that is not going to get you the peace that you're looking for. Pursuing pain, that I think we all get. It's not going to give us the peace we are looking for. This middle path, understanding that everything is changing, everything is unstable, it's not in my control, therefore it's unpleasant. That understanding changes the way we think, changes the way we speak, we behave, we live in society. It makes us want to put more effort into introspection, and that introspection leads to a calm state. Yeah, so that is the whole thing in a nutshell. So how do we practice Cittanupassana? Now, sit comfortably and close your eyes lightly. Now that you are sitting comfortably and your eyes are closed, let's look at the sense doors. So, with your eyes closed, there is no visual input coming in. So, we can take it as the eye sense door is closed. And you have just had your meal, or you haven't, or anyway, at this point, you are not eating or drinking. So, we can approximately take that your tongue sense door is also shut down. Wherever you are sitting in for meditation, we can assume that there is nothing pleasant or unpleasant to smell. So we can approximately take that your nose sense door is also on a shutdown. So that leaves your ears on full alert and your body is on full alert. Yeah? So let us focus on something easy. Let us focus on what you can hear, right? So I request you to take a minute and focus on what you can hear. I'll keep the timer for 1 minute. Now, how are you going to listen? You need to listen with equanimity. So equanimity is, you are just observing, it's a sound. Right? Just observe. That's it. That's the instruction. So I'll keep the timer for 1 minute. And we are going to just observe. All right, let us start now. Just observe, what can you hear? All right. So now you are listening to whatever the sounds you could hear in your environment as well as in my environment, which you can hear or not. Now, next, I'm going to create a sound, just a tapping sound, and I want you to just pay attention to it. That's all. Just pay attention to a sound that I'm going to create. Okay. Now I want you to observe. It was just a sound, right? I want you to observe whether you liked that sound or whether you dislike that sound. Just observe in your mind whether you like the sound or you dislike the sound. Let us start. All right. Now, The next step, I want you to observe there is a dislike or like, and there's observation of it. So I created a sound, you can hear it, and most probably you didn't like it. Maybe you liked it, whatever it is. Do you see in your mind, can you see the like or the dislike? And can you see the observation of it? Yeah, so let us try again. Let's put the pleasant one. Okay, all right, so okay, I had the unpleasant one, which is the tapping, and I made it quite jarring, so no, you were spared of it. That's good. I also have a pleasant sound, which I think is pleasant. At least 67,000 people have liked it, so it must be pleasant. It's we'll play it for you. Okay, we'll play it for you, and let's see whether you can hear it. I'll tell you when we are playing, so you can tell me whether you can hear it or not. Can you hear? Okay. Now think about whether you liked it or whether you disliked it. Chances are you liked it. Even if you disliked it, that's fine. Don't worry. So just assuming that you liked it, okay? We'll play it again. I want you to watch the liking. Let the music be. Let your mind like it. I want you to observe that liking. Right. Just observe that there is a liking. Okay. Let's try that. So let me ask a couple of you. In the meanwhile, Natisha is looking for something jarring for you. So this was what we thought will be pleasant. Did you observe the liking that came as a result of what you could hear? So what both of you are referring to is, and similarly, when Dr. Manori also felt that this can go south, it can make me go to sleep. How the mood changes, and also the problem with the things we like. We all know this. I'm just repeating. Where every pleasure always ends with a disappointment and a yearning for more, and that's the nature of desire. You just want more. And while we seek pleasures to feel some comfort at the end, what increasingly you are left with, you realize you are left with actually not a comfort, with a disappointment that it's over. Yeah. So that is fantastic. Now watching this, right? This was a 2 minutes. I let you listen to this for 2 minutes. These 2 minutes, what you saw is introspection. What's really happening? The stimulus came from outside. You were watching your mind, and you saw the play in it. There was desire. There was grasping with desire. Because you grasped with desire, you were disappointed when it ended. The quality of the music changed. As I am conducting this, I got upset when the quality changed. I had fear, I had anxiety, I had disappointment, I had anger. I was like, what the hell, you know, all of that. Yeah, Natisha is looking shocked. Yeah, in 2 minutes you can feel all of that. The thing is, this is happening all the time. You know? It's reality that we are aware of, right? So this is, you are really looking at yourself, the real, what you are going through every day as a roller coaster. Okay, let's listen to something unpleasant, shall we? Yep. Who knows? You might find it pleasant at the end. Okay, so keep your close your eyes, and when you are listening to this, watch what is happening in your mind. What kind of emotions are arising? And aversion, dislike is also a very strong grasping, right? We grasp with liking and we grasp with dislike. So just observe. Okay, let's go. Now I have a small challenge for you. See if you can tell yourself that it's just a sound, right? What makes a sound pleasurable or annoying? It is how we interpret. So from our childhood, we have memories, and the adults around us, the medias, various medias around us have told us that these are good and these are bad. So our judgment has been set, maybe not necessarily that it was our own judgment. Maybe a lot had to do with conditioning by society. Maybe a lot has to do with your own likes and dislikes. Also, it's a combination, obviously. And we have a tendency to prefer soothing sounds, and a dislike to this kind of sounds. But if you look at various music that is popular in the world, there's heavy metal, rock, and various things. Something that is jarring to somebody can be pleasant to somebody else. It's also a lifestyle. When I was young, I wanted to listen to things loud and blaring. And now, in my current state, I like soft, smooth. In fact, I prefer if there's no sound at all, right? So, even what you like and dislike can change. So, it's very, very subjective. Now, this subjectivity is what is causing us uh, a suffering, right? Because we have decided that this is bad or this is not good, but it's not your ear. So this is where you really need to understand, where is the suffering actually coming from? Your ear does not know that this is a jarring sound. Your ear did not know that the previous sound was relaxing. Your ear is just a sense door. It unfiltered. It gives you the sound as it is in its original form. And the story is in your mind. It's coming from memories. It's coming from past judgment. And mostly we just refer to that judgment and we go with it. And that is what is causing the suffering. So what you need to do now is we'll play it for just 30 seconds. See if you can maintain equanimity, no judgment, because it's just a sound, right? Earlier, we played it very loud, but then you would have noticed that we reduced the volume. So we'll play it in that reduced volume. Just see if you can maintain equanimity, upeksha. It's just a sound, right? It's not a big deal. It's just a sound. Yeah. Okay. Nothing, shall we? Another way to deal with this sound, one is to be at peace with it, which is to develop equanimity and to say it's just a sound, right? And this is what the Buddha said, "Duttude duttuva pamanai, asunade asuna pamanai." What you see is just seeing colors. What you are hearing is just sound waves. There's no judgment in it. There's no bias in it. So that is one way. Another way is to observe that there's a disliking, right? So you're not trying to fight it. You are not trying to get rid of it. You are just letting it be. Your mind has a dislike towards the sound, and you are observing that the mind dislikes the sound. Yeah. So dislike is something that got generated in the chitta, right? So you don't need to go into that extent. You can, and we are trying to not personalize things. So how we personalize things is, I hate that sound. That is how we generally say something. I hate that sound. Stop it. But in this case, because we are practicing Vipassana, you can say, there is a sound. There is dislike towards the sound. There is observation of the dislike towards the sound. Yeah? So there is a sound, right? There is a dislike towards the sound. There is observation of the dislike towards the sound. So you can be the observer. You can observe the dislike towards the sound. So let's try that. Observe the dislike towards the sound. Now let's up the game a bit, right? So this is a real life situation where the outside world is the outside world. We don't have any control over it. So imagine this is your neighbor. Imagine your neighbor's car. There are some cars, if you try to steal it, it creates this kind of a noise. So your neighbor has gone off for the weekend and something fell on the car and the car is now giving this noise. Hopefully you don't have to spend a weekend listening to that. But imagine you have to spend a couple of hours with this sound in your background, right? Let us practice some meditation now. Let the sound be. Yeah, we'll play the sound lower, right? We'll put the volume lower. But practice some meditation. Try to be at peace. Let the sound be. I mean, why do we need to fight the sound? Let it be in peace. Ajahn Chah, Venerable Ajahn Chah Thayer always says, you are disturbing the sound. Right? You are disturbing the sound. Let the sound be. You attend to your own business. You mind your own business. So let us mind our own business. And whatever you like doing as a samatha technique, whether it is attention to the breath, do that, right? Whether it is metta, buddhanusati, and whenever you notice the dislike, just observe there is dislike, and you can observe the dislike and then go back to the breath. So let's just do 5 minutes of that, all right? Or if you want, you just observe the dislike at peace. Observing the dislike at peace is the proper Cittanupassana. And just throwing in a challenge for you, can you let the sound be and do whatever you want, get on with life, do a samatha meditation. Okay, so let's try this. Let's start. Now the environment has changed, and observe how your emotions, your mood is changing. All right. So that actually brings us to the end. So how you do Cittanupassana is, this was a very extreme version where I triggered pleasant and unpleasant stimulus for you. Generally, how Cittanupassana works is just observe how desire arises, aversion, and on a regular basis, when you are not in a meditating pose, you can just keep into your mind and see what is your emotional state like. Is it a mind? Is it a state of liking? You are liking something. Is it a state of dislike? Is it a state of regret? Is it a state of sadness? Is it a state of anger? Is it a state of jealousy? Is it a dull state, feeling lethargic? Is it a restless state? So just observe what is my emotional state like, and then try to be impersonal about it, rather than say I am feeling lazy. You can look at it and say a lazy state has come. The mind is in a state of laziness. The mind is in a state of unhappiness. The mind is in a state of anger. That observation, impersonal observation. Okay, so that is the technique.